Do I look like a gardener to you? I am a better, I am not a gardener. Hedging is for gardens. How does your garden grow?
With plus money.
With plus money. Hedging is for gardens.
Welcome in, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. It is Wednesday, the 26th of November. You're with Steve Wyss and Will White. And as per usual, we're going to be breaking down the whole Champions League slate, all 9 games, best bets across the card. Delighted to be joined by professional gambler Will White. How's it going, Will?
Hey, Steve. Good day to everyone out there. Very good, thank you. Good card last night and looking forward to a good one tonight too.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. And we're also going to be back later, actually, for a brand new show, calling it, for now, The Breakdown. It's going to be at 10:15 p.m. UK time. That's going to be 5:15 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to go through basically kind of a reaction to the Champions League card, where the money is, how people get on with their bets, teams that we should be looking to oppose, fade, get on, ratings, things like that. So do join us later on and let us know how you got on the Champions League. But welcome in all. Hope Tuesday was good for you. Thanks so much for all the comments and everything yesterday. Just welcoming in everyone from the top of the show here. Leslie, Ming, Stephen Boyle, Byron as well. A Villa fan. That was a good night for you. Just one draw. That will do you. He's opposing all the draws in the Champions League. Malunga Mavula says, whatever you do, stay away from the Liverpool and Arsenal games. We have been warned by Malunga Mavula there. Leslie is liking Pafos today. We're going to talk about that match, of course, like all the other ones. Master says, yesterday was the worst day of soccer I've had in years. I'm sorry to hear that. But you just got to bounce back for the next one. Okay, let's just have a look again. Yeah. Okay, we're going to crack on with some best bets and stuff soon, but just some notable winners and losers from yesterday. Top 3 biggest soccer bets, unfortunately, were losers. Lamine Yamal over 1.5 shots in the Barcelona game. The Galatasaray fixture, that stung a lot of people, I think, Will, including myself a little bit to a degree. But people losing on the live goals overs. I don't think anyone's had 0-1 on their bingo sheet, really, did they? Despite the loss of Victor Osimhen. Someone did get on Bayer Leverkusen on the money line in play at plus 160. $5,000 stake there, which was, I'd imagine, that would have been when they were maybe 1-0 up.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
They wouldn't have been plus 160 at 2-0 up, would they? But that's quite a good... Quite a good winner, that one, I must say. We'll talk about how your whole Champions League card went later on the breakdown show, Will. But just want to remind people of a promotion. We do have some house specials today in the Real Madrid game and the Arsenal game, but also the Premier League second chance token. Don't forget this one. Players who opt in on the BetRivers app will receive 2 Premier League second chance tokens for Premier League parlays. If a player loses the wager where the second chance token was applied, they'll receive a bonus bet equal to their stake. So see the BetRivers app and website for full details, along with all the other latest promotions that they have going on there. Champions League table is how it looks. Just one team on 0 points now. That is Ajax, who lost to Benfica last night. And we've got 3 teams on maximum points. That will be reduced to 2 tonight because Bayern Munich face Arsenal. And this is how the table's shaping up. You've got to get in the top 24, of course. It's starting to look bleak for some of them teams down there in the bottom 10 now who've played 5 games. The pressure's on them. And, in the end, the cream is starting to rise. I've seen a few comments today about how the lack of jeopardy in this Champions League group stage is people starting to criticise that with the Manchester City team selection and stuff. Might touch on that later. But let's get on with today's games. FC Copenhagen against Kairat. Copenhagen a big favourite, nearly minus 400 on the money line. Kairat 11-1. Surprisingly, over 2.5 goals is at minus 155. I mean, we were talking off air. This Kairat side might be the worst team that's ever been in the Champions League. Certainly in recent years, in memory. In which case it might be a justifiable price on FC Copenhagen. I'm not sure I like either team right now for a few reasons. But in terms of minus 400 for FCK, is that fair?
Yeah, it probably is about right. I think Kairat, if you've been watching the markets, they get opposed. Certainly in their away games, they've been getting opposed a lot, and they were even opposed at home to Pafos. Yeah, I was on them plus 3.25 away at Inter in the last round, and they went off plus 3.75. So it's not often that I'm half a goal behind the closing line going into a match. So I was pretty nervous about that one, but they managed to win on the handicap. They're plus 1.75 here, somewhere between plus 1.5 and plus 1.75. It's fairish, but I think gun to head, I'd probably be leaning Kairat plus 1.75 here. Copenhagen aren't that great. They haven't been that great this season. We do see quite a bit of money for them. We saw a lot of money for them as underdogs away at Spurs in the last round. They lost that pretty convincingly. And then regarding the total, at first glance, kind of 2.75, 3 seemed pretty generous, and that the over might be a play, but I'm not so sure. I know you guys mentioned yesterday on the show about the weather and the cold temperatures favoring unders. And actually last night, if you'd backed all the unders, you would have been in profit on the main Asian line. So I'm not keen on that. Ultimately, it's a very low confidence spot for me, and just a slight lean on Kairat plus 1.75. I think you're muted there, Steve.
Yes, so thanks very much for that one, Will. Just do me a favour, Will. We need a sound checker. Just tap your mic, because I think something changed while we were mid-sentence there on the sound. You might be on the wrong mic, just to let you know. Maybe you can switch that out while I mention my lean.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, for the game. Under 3 Asian goals is what I like here at minus 134. The weather, again, is going to be nearly 0 degrees Celsius in Copenhagen. It's going to be cloudy. Kairat, it's worth mentioning, they're not anywhere near their domestic league right now. They've had quite a few weeks since the end of their season. FC Copenhagen now go into their winter break. And I think both teams are quite a big fade going forwards. In the next round, in the 2 rounds in January, I'll be looking to oppose them both. FCK should be able to use their sort of fitness advantage now. Ultimately, I think FCK win, but I think you're looking at something like 2-0-ish territory. The under 3 Asian, I think, is not bad at minus 134. The danger is Kairat are so far off in terms of fitness and freshness that they could get a pasting by anyone. That's the danger of taking the big plus cap. But just looking now at the breakdown for the game, is 91% of the money on FCK and 70% of the money's on the over in the over-under market. But it looks a tricky game. Quite a few avoiding it in chat. There was a suggestion. Yeah, that was it. Kenny Court. Copenhagen over 6.5 corners. That's not a bad sort of bet, actually, in this game if they are going to dominate territorially. So, there we go. Okay. Hopefully, you might be back on track with the sound there, Will. I don't know what happened. It was like you switched from one to another. It was strange going through the thing.
I think I fiddled around with the settings and it should be okay now.
There you go. You sound perfect. Absolutely perfect now. The other early kickoff is in Pafos. We go from the coldest venue of the day to the warmest. Nearly 20 degrees. It's going to be a lovely evening in Pafos. And I'll be honest, Pafos look a big price here. A few people have said this in the chat. Monaco are minus 200 favourites. Pafos plus 525, plus 1 on the Asian handicap line. Monaco have just lost their last 2 games 4-1. And they are, they're in the middle of a season. They've had a change of a manager. One week they seem to be all right. The next week they're not very good. They're leaking goals. And Pafos have beaten Villarreal at home. And I know perhaps it was a lucky win. I couldn't go anywhere near Monaco at minus 200. Well, absolutely no chance whatsoever. They might come here and get a good win, but there's no way they can possibly be a bet, surely.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. We have cashed our fair share of winning tickets on Pafos this season and last season. Obviously, they went through quite a a long qualification campaign, and we had many opportunities to get on them, especially at home to the likes of Red Star and Dynamo Kiev. But they've also performed above expectations in the group stage as well, which is, it wasn't really a surprise to us, but it seems to be a surprise to the market because there's lots of money coming from Monaco here. We know that Pafos are essentially at neutral ground in Limassol. I was actually in Pafos last week, Steve, believe it or not.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I was on a tennis camp out there in Pafos that I go to yearly.
You in training for the seniors tour?
Sorry?
You in training for the seniors tour?
Something like that, yeah. I do actually qualify for the veterans now at my local club. But back to the betting, I do quite like Pafos +1 here. It keeps drifting. We can now get around about +100. Maybe it keeps drifting a bit more. The one thing that kind of puts me off is the fact that Monaco are getting healthy finally. They've got Zakaria and Kamara, their kind of midfield first choice two, are both back from injury. Kamara probably won't start here, but Zakaria should. But still, the +1 is definitely a lean. I mean, Pafos were +1.5 against Villarreal at home and won that in the last round. We've got half a goal worse on the handicap here at +1, but I think it's still worth at least a lean.
I agree. +1 on the Asian line for Pafos. They have been very competitive in this Champions League phase. They dig in, they grind. It was interesting yesterday watching Bodo Glimt and Slavia Prague play. And you've got a Bodo Glimt team just going for it all the time. And you are going to come unstuck. You're going to lose games doing it that way. You're going to win more. But then you got Slavia Prague grinding for the 0-0. Pafos are more in the Slavia Prague sort of camp. They'll grind. They'll do what they can to get every point they possibly can in this group stage. And Monaco, I'm not sure they'll like that too much. Point taken about the team news for Monaco is improving. Zakaria is quite an important player. He's never a bad shout for a shot on target, actually. Especially a headed shot on target as well. He's one of those players that's quite good in the air. Alan Blake says draw at half time for this one. Byron's going Pafos double chance. +145. A reckons he wouldn't be surprised if it finishes 0-0 or 1-1. Just looking through some of the comments as well. Yeah, I saw that. James does have a shot on target on his one of his blogs for this one, as you might expect in a Monaco game. Monaco are in poor form, though. That is for sure. Effie Brilovsky. I saw some of your tweets on X today. I totally agree with them, by the way. Well worth a look there. Monaco team total over 1.5 and Pafos team total under 1.5 at +110. That's an interesting little parlay. Kenny's kind of right. They are an overs team 100%, but I think Pafos are an unders team in the Champions League. So you've got two contrasting styles up against each other in this one, which makes it interesting. I can't believe 96% of the money's on Monaco here, Will. 81% of the money's on the over as well. So, yeah, maybe it's reputation more in terms of Pafos. People see the name and think, utter tripe. But they're maybe not that bad. David Luis Shot says humble about the in here. He is worth watching out from set pieces there. Let's switch to Frankfurt against Atalanta. We're moving to the later kickoffs now, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and it's a proper pick'em. +165 for Eintracht Frankfurt. Atalanta +155. The tie is +250. What was the message you sent me this morning, Will? You said it was going to be basically an absolute banker that would be on the overs in this game. Maybe a few weeks ago, absolutely. But right now, I'm more looking at unders for Eintracht Frankfurt games. And this is it's just the second match in charge for the new Atalanta boss. So for me, this is a red flag game of not getting involved. But I am sure the over 2.5 goals at -159 will tempt quite a lot of people in.
Yeah, I mean, you say that you kind of, I remember early in the season, you were definitely high on the Eintracht Frankfurt goals. And I think this goal line probably would have been 3.25 if you went back, rewind a month or so. But we're looking at 2 and 3/4 now. So half a goal lower than maybe where it would have been. You know, Eintracht Frankfurt had a ridiculous 60 goals in the opening 11 games of the season. But then the subsequent 5 saw only 7 goals. And we talked about maybe Topmuller was kind of cognizant of the fact that they were a bit too gung-ho and maybe was reining it in a bit. But that sequence did end with a 4-3 win over Köln at the weekend. I don't really know what we're going to get from this Eintracht Frankfurt team. And at the same time, Atalanta are generally an unders team this season, despite their last 2 going over. This game is really hard to call. I would have liked to get Atalanta on side, but I was hoping for a +1/4 line. We're looking at draw no bet, and they're actually favourites on the tie no bet line now. Atalanta are generally a team that I think are quite underrated, and I'm generally higher on them than the market is. And then Eintracht, I don't really know what to think of Eintracht. So for me, I'm going to be avoiding this game. Anything could happen, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the Eintracht under train, did profit from it. I think something changed after they lost big against Liverpool. I think you didn't want that again. But I did get stung at the weekend. They were involved in a crazy game again against Köln. I think if an early goal is scored in their fixtures, it just opens up. That's the key, I think, if there's an early goal. There is a new manager now at Atalanta A. It's not Juric anymore. He got fired. Rafael Palladino is in charge, the former Fiorentina and Monza boss. Look, it's difficult to know what version we're going to get from Atalanta. They lost against Napoli at the weekend, but we can't really hold that against them too much. Some say Eintracht Frankfurt are a big price here. I mean, they are the slight dog by a whisker. And the thought did cross my mind, actually, could Eintracht Frankfurt be a bet? But, on paper, 1 to 11, Atalanta is the better 11, I'd say.
A couple of big injuries as well for Eintracht, right? Canazun and one of their I think Larson might be out as well. So, yeah, a couple of big injuries for Eintracht that I think are they're struggling to deal with. They're having to play Goetze in the playmaker role, who's getting on a bit. So, yeah, really very, very hard game to call.
Really, really difficult match. Our advice is pretty much to stay away from it. 68% of the money is on Eintracht Frankfurt, though. So that might be a good sign for those considering Frankfurt. They are, let's say, a very slight dog. 82% of the money is on the over. The biggest bet on the game is a 4-figure sum on Eintracht Frankfurt -1 on the Asian handicap, actually, +310. So interesting one there. If they win big, according to that particular bettor. Okay, let's move. Before that, Betting Weekly Insider promotion is going to be coming out this Friday. We've had bets on Monday's newsletter as well. I've got a bet on the Champions League on that Monday's newsletter, but do sign up for free. The Insider comes out every Friday, an in-depth sports article on the world of soccer, the American sports and tennis when the tennis season's going on. So please do sign up. It's totally free for anyone new that might be coming in. I'm sure most of you have already received that this week. We're going to move now to the big game of the night, really. Arsenal against Bayern Munich. Arsenal are plus money to beat them. Not often you get Arsenal at plus money at home against anyone now. Bayern Munich plus 260, the tie at plus 245. The two teams in the Champions League table who've got 100% record. The first part of your daily double today will be coming in this particular match, but so much to dissect here. I suspect these two sides are top in your power rankings yourself, and I think they are. Everyone's pretty much caught up to that now, but you were ahead of the trend.
Yeah, maybe I was. Yeah, and I certainly do have them the best two teams in Europe at the moment. And yeah, I mean, on paper, this is a massive clash. But there's one X factor here that I think kind of toils with that theory a little bit, and that is that Arsenal have Chelsea at the weekend after having Spurs the weekend just gone. So it's kind of sandwiched in quite a difficult spot for Arteta. Will he rotate here? We don't know. The market's seeming to suggest that they won't, but I don't really know. I think the current prices are about right for me. But I do really like both teams to score yes, which is around about -140. And I think that's bettable. And that will be my first leg of the daily double. This really is a clash between the best defence in Europe, in Arsenal's, and perhaps the best attack. And Bayern have scored in all 18 competitive fixtures so far this season, averaging a ridiculous 3.55 goals scored per game, which is just outrageous, really. Obviously, most of those games have come against teams not of the caliber of Arsenal, certainly defensively, but they did put 3 past Chelsea in matchday 1 and 2 past PSG in matchday 4. So they can do it against the bigger teams. And then at the weekend, we also saw Arteta employ a really high press against Spurs. And we know about Bayern's high press. And generally, when you've got two teams pressing high up the pitch, that'll lead to more chances and ultimately more goals. So that's why I think there's still some value here, even at minus 140 and both teams to score. It's really hard to see either team keeping the other off the score sheet. Disclaimer, there is this Arsenal top of the table clash with Chelsea at the weekend. Maybe Arteta will look to just control the game. But if both teams are in the high press, it's got to be both teams to score.
Yeah, both teams to score will be the first part of your daily double here. I think it's an interesting clash. Though I'm going to read out a tweet on X from one of the guys in chat here, Effie. This really made me interested today. He said, ahead of tonight's Champions League game in London, you should ask whether Bayern should really play their best 11 and try to win the game. And his answer was he thought no. Bayern are pretty much guaranteed for a top 8 place, whatever. The benefit of giving Arsenal an inflated sense of confidence ahead of a potential playoff clash and a limited true understanding about what the game will look like is more important than a win in a busy schedule, he said. And this reminded me of something like Kansas City Chiefs have done this in the NFL in recent years against the Bills. Like they've kind of tanked the regular season game and lost it or not been as good as it. And then in the playoffs, when it really matters, they've shown their true hand and delivered. And that made me think of it. This reminds me a little bit of when Arsenal played PSG last season, actually, in the group stage. Arsenal ended up winning that game. The match seemed to matter more to them. But then, like you said, there is this sandwich position for Arsenal. A draw probably does suit both teams, if we're being honest. I just don't think either manager's going to want to back down, though. They're both a bit ego-ish, aren't they, to a degree?
Yeah, and Bayern, actually, their official Twitter account has been giving it quite a lot about the 10-2 aggregate scoreline in recent matches versus Arsenal. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to really know how Arteta will approach this. But they do have a midweek. There's a midweek Premier League card next week as well. So there are lots of games thick and fast here for Arsenal. I'm not sure if there's a midweek Bundesliga card next week. I don't think there is, but I'm not 100% on that. I think Bayern will be going full gas here. Personally, Luis Diaz is out. He's suspended. So, they won't have their first choice 11 on the pitch, but it won't be far from it.
I do think the loss of Gabriel is important for Arsenal. It was hardly noticed at the weekend. Spurs were that bad. Yeah. But if you get at them properly, I still think that some of the opinion that that Saliba is the best defender in the back line, and some people say Timber actually might be the one as well. But for me, Gabriel's still the heartbeat at the back. And I think if a good side can get at them, Harry Kane's going to be well fired up as well, by the way, here. Hasta la FIFA says Kane 2 or more fouls at evens is a steal. That could be worth looking at, actually. The former Spurs man will be desperate to make his mark in more way than one. It's a fascinating game. I'm going to absolutely tell you on this daily double today, Will. And both teams score yes is the first part of it. 61% of the money is on Bayern Munich for the game. And 69% of the tickets are on Bayern as well, which is interesting. And they're the clear dog here. 74% of the money's on the over. And the biggest over-under bet on the game is actually 4-figure, someone under 2.75 agent goals. Had loads of different thoughts in chat about this game. Good luck, whatever you are taking. It's going to be hopefully a barnstorming fixture with several goals at both ends of the field, and see how it goes. Two big teams against each other. Could it be the final of the Champions League this season down the line? We'll have to wait and see. Okay, another pretty big game, a repeat of the Super Cup final. PSG against Spurs. PSG are the clear favourites, minus 265 in Paris. plus 380 on the tie. Spurs at plus 700. Now, Spurs completely surprised everyone at the start of the season in that Super Cup final, racing ahead, had a great game plan. They definitely caught PSG cold. And I've had a few people message me today, actually, and said, is it, can we get on Spurs on the handicap, dribble chance? Are they going to be a nightmare matchup for PSG again? I just think they've lost their surprise factor, Will, completely. And PSG were not in any sort of shape early in the summer. And I'll talk about Spurs in a minute, but I am extremely worried at the minute for Thomas Frank. I'm a bit surprised PSG are, backable on a handicap, minus 1.25. I think that just screams, for me, a clear home win. But what do you expect?
Well, there's been some big money for Spurs in this one, taking them from plus 1.5 to plus 1.25. And it kind of makes sense when you think about what the line was at the weekend against Arsenal. They were minus money on the plus 1.25 there. And I've personally got Arsenal rated higher than PSG. So if you kind of extrapolate that, that market move makes sense, right? Like, Spurs were terrible on the weekend. They moved, PSG shortened from 1.25 to 1.5, and that was just too far. This is a new game, and really PSG haven't been firing on all cylinders, at least domestically so far this season. They've had a bunch of injuries, and actually I think that might actually do them good. In the long term, a lot of their key players did need a break, and granted, injuries are never a good thing, but maybe the likes of Dembele, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz, Desiree Doué, maybe those injuries give them a chance to kind of get a bit of a rest, get a bit of a pre-season, I guess, and hopefully, and I'd expect them in the second half of the season to come on strong. So having said that, this is a market move that I am quite keen to take on. Spurs were just shocking against Arsenal, and we've talked a lot on this show about how they're struggling to create chances. They're even struggling to string a few passes together. So this is a market that a market move I'm willing to take on, and will actually be the second half of the daily double. It's just PSG on the nose, straight win. It's minus 265 outright, but if you pair it up with the Arsenal, both teams to score, you get plus 121. I just think it's very hard to see PSG not getting the win here. I think they'll be massively fired up, and I don't think Spurs will be able to contain them.
That is the official daily double on screen there. We're going pretty simple today to basics. PSG to beat Spurs, and Arsenal, Bayern Munich, both teams score. Yes, plus 121. And there'll be a lot of people watching that basically saying that we might effectively be on Arsenal, Bayern Munich, both teams score. Yes, there at plus 121, because PSG, for me, to look very, very likely to get the job done. I will add in, I do like that handicap on PSG, minus 1.25 at minus 122. I don't see them not winning. There's maybe some doubts about the 11. Dembele is unlikely to play, but Barcola was, and I like that bet from Effie as well. Barcola 2+ shots on target. He should be fresh and ready to go for this one. And Spurs, like in these big games, there's a real trend, Will, that Thomas Frank has been parking the bus. There's been a real lack of attacking intent. They had no shots, I don't think, at the Emirates in the first half last week. They had one shot in the second half against Chelsea. Thomas Frank, I said it on, I think it might be Monday's show with Lewis, that I just don't see him as a Spurs-type manager. I rate Frank as a boss, don't get me wrong. I think he did a brilliant job at Brentford, and I think he's a pretty good sort of dog manager. But I'm not sure the Spurs job suits him. It's a tough job anyway, one of the hardest in world soccer, actually, in my opinion. And I'm not sure he will last there.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think, he's kind of stuck in the underdog mentality with Spurs. And we've seen what Brentford have done without Frank, right? The system just keeps producing and overperforming. And it's a lot of questions being asked about Frank's capability to take Spurs to where the supporters want them to be.
Yeah, exactly that. That's the daily double. It's on screen. We'll remind people at the end again. PSG to beat Spurs, and Bayern Munich, Arsenal. Both teams score. Yes. I forgot to mention a house special actually in that Bayern game. And it is Harry Kane to score at least one goal and over 2.5 goals in the match. And if you like that, you can get plus 220. So, if you're on the lines, if you're thinking goals in the game, you're thinking Kane, then Bet Rivers have offered a really nice house special carrot there. That's for sure. In terms of the money splits for this game, just 82% of the money on PSG. Surprised, I thought there'd be more than that. And only 56% of the money on the over as well. I get that because of, I think a lot will expect Spurs to come here and offer very little. PSG win to 0 wouldn't surprise me. Based on, you're not going to get a Richarlison goal from nearly halfway again, are you? Every day of the week. So I've really felt for Arsenal win to 0 back at the weekend, I've got to say. I thought it was such an unlucky bet if you were actually on it. But anyway, that is that particular game. We move to Madrid now. A fascinating contest, actually, I think. Atletico against Inter. Tight favourites, Atletico Madrid, Inter at plus 195. There's been times that I've flip-flopped here, Will. I've looked at and thought Inter look a big price, and then the next minute I'm thinking, hold on a minute, Atletico Madrid at home in this type of fixture might need to be backed. What do you think?
I think it's a really spicy matchup, and probably would be the game I'd be watching if Arsenal Bayern wasn't on. But at the same time, I think it's hard to call. Both teams are really hard nuts to crack. Atleti, especially at home, and then Inter just generally. But I do fancy both teams to score yes here. It's shortened quite a bit. It was minus 136 when I was looking at it. Up until the Milan derby at the weekend, where Inter actually generated 1.92 XG, hit the post twice and had a penalty saved. Inter have scored in every single game so far this season. And likewise, Atleti have only blanked once this season as well, which was away to Arsenal in Matchday 3 in this competition. Oblak, also starting goalkeeper for Atleti, is confirmed out. So we'll see Musso in net as he was over the weekend. And Inter goalkeeper Jan Sommer, he's been getting quite a lot of criticism recently for some quite high-profile mistakes. So for me, both teams to score is the bet here. We've talked quite a lot over the years about Simeone and his change in approach, kind of from the traditional Atleti being, a 1-0 machine and looking to sit back and play defensively. They're not really that anymore. And so, both teams to score yes.
Yeah, I think you might have actually sold me on that one, actually, Will. I think you're right. Spice is a good word for this particular fixture. I can tell you now, 92% of the money is actually on the over for the game, which might be an indication that we're expecting quite a few goals. Inter Milan have most of the money, 89% of the money on Inter, 81% of the tickets on Inter as well. I think it's going to be... This is actually a really good match to watch. A lot of eyes obviously will be on the Emirates tonight and maybe Paris as well. This might just be the best game. And we might learn quite a lot from this game as well. You've still got, for me, still the best Italian team away at, the clear third best side from La Liga. Just looking through some of the comments on the game. Duncan says generally could be 5 or 6 to PSG if they're in the mood. That's an interesting call, that one, Duncan. Martinez 2+ shots on target at plus 200, says Effie. Brad Bet said this is a match I think could have more goals than the total. So people are looking at goals along here. Kenny says no way Atletico lose this, needs must for them. So that's that is annoying. The both teams to score at the weekend of missed penalty. Mike Manyan had an incredible game there in the Milan derby. Remarkable, actually, bit of goalkeeping. But okay, that is Atletico Inter covered. Sporting Lisbon against Club Brugge now. I think personally Club Brugge are massively priced here at plus 510. Sporting Lisbon at minus 200. Not denying they should be the favourites. I honestly thought Sporting would be more like minus 110 or minus 120, Will. So for me, and it's not often I would have like the best bet for me of the day is on a dog. But I think the plus 1 Asian handicap on Club Brugge at even money. I mean, you could actually get plus 1.25 at minus 130. They just seem really undervalued here for me. Then again, I have been kind of opposing Sporting this whole group stage so far. It might just be I'm a bit low on them compared to some people.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm going to take Club Brugge plus 1 goal on the Asian handicap here. I can see why there's been a lot of money for Sporting. I think generally Sporting are quite underrated, and Portuguese teams in general. And Club Brugge underlying data, particularly domestically, hasn't been as strong as it normally would be. But I don't think ultimately Club Brugge should be such big underdogs. They were very impressive versus Barca last time out, and they actually went off +3/4 away at Atalanta, who I rate kind of similarly to Sporting, and so we're getting a quarter of a goal better here. And on top of all of that, Pote might be out for Sporting. I'm not sure that's been confirmed, but if he is out, he'll be a big miss and will diminish the Sporting attacking threat. The market's expecting quite a few goals here, actually. But Bruges +1, plus money almost, I think now, is the bet for me.
I think they're a plucky team who are starting to gather more Champions League and European experience as the seasons have gone on. They'll give it a good go if they need to. They can hunker in and keep it tight if needed as well. Brad Betts Footy, good to see you. He says Carlos Forbes is a player to watch for Bruges.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams to score and Bruges +1.5, says Humble Levadian. Leslie's going for Sporting on the corners market. I've not actually looked at the corners market for this game. And it seems that Forbes is very much a player worth watching out for. Just a 21-year-old attacker who may well catch the eye here and in his home country as well, of course. Yeah. So this is... I don't get why Sporting is so short in this game, Will. I just don't get it. There's 91% of the money on them and 95% of the tickets, but that doesn't always mean everything. 86% of the money's on the over market as well. Just looks a clear bit of line value to me on the +1. If Sporting win it, it's more likely than not to be by a 1-goal margin on Michael. So we're both really liking the +1 on the Asian line there. A couple of more matches to discuss on the card. Liverpool against PSV Eindhoven. Liverpool -420. PSV knocking on the door of a 10-1 shot, of course. A goal line now, which is as high as 3.75, nearly 4. And I advised the over 3.5 goals on the Betting Weekly newsletter on Monday. It was a much more backable price then. I think Liverpool rebound. They've had a lot of trouble recently. The last time they were in a hole, they managed to use the Champions League to help them out when they won 5-1 at Frankfurt. And I think this is a really nice pressure release game for them, really, if we're being honest. PSV are not the sort of defensively awkward team like Forest were. They might be able to cause some issues offensively, but I just couldn't imagine Liverpool not winning this game, really, Will. It's just a question of by how many.
Yeah, I don't believe that this Liverpool slump is going to last, and I think that they will rebound at some point. They don't really seem to have the negative energy around them. They seem to have more of kind of like a defiance, and I think we'll see them rebound here. But at the end of the day, they are 2-goal favourites now on the main Asian line, and there's been a lot of money for them. So that 2-goal Asian handicap line isn't enough to tempt me in. At the same time, kind of not that keen on PSV. And for a bit of context, PSV went off +1.5 on the Asian line away at PSG last season in this competition. And it just shows how high the market is on Premier League teams. And I think that's justifiable. Even given Newcastle and Man City's losses last night, Premier League teams have still exhibited their superiority with a phenomenal win-loss record across European competition. So I'm kind of looking at the market and seeing a goal line at 3 3/4 now. I'm seeing both teams to score yes at -170. The market is expecting a 3-1 kind of scoreline, which I'm finding it hard to disagree with. And I think putting everything together, I found a same game parlay here that I quite like at plus money, which is Liverpool win and both teams to score yes. And that's +120. I think when you consider that Liverpool have only kept 3 clean sheets all season and PSV have scored in all 4 Champions League group stage matches so far, that's quite attractive. I think it's more likely than not that PSV do get on the score sheet, but it's hard to see Liverpool not winning the game outright. So at plus money, that's a bet for me.
That looks a good bet, the more I think about it. To get plus money on that particular outcome, winning both teams score, yes. I've got the feeling the goals might go a bit silly here, actually. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we ended up with like 5, even 6 goals. But I mean, just looking at the odds now with Bet Rivers, over 4.5 goals is plus 155. Over 5.5 goals is only plus 340. I mean, even 6.5 is plus 750. It's one of those where the odds kind of dictate and show where it's expected. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with backing over 3.5 goals. Even now, if you're looking at a parlay piece or something like that, the value's gone on that line general. But a few interesting comments about this. Brad Betts is going to be back in Liverpool to get a big win here. Quite a lot of people not rating Dutch football this season, and I see that. But PSV are the sort of team who can surprise you sometimes, like they did against Napoli. But this is going to be difficult for them. They only really play one way. Peter Bosch, we know, isn't going to come and park a bus. He's not going to be tactically smart like, say, Sean Dyche was at the weekend. He allows his tactics can be of benefit, don't get me wrong. But the only way they're going to get anything is by scoring goals. It's as simple as that. That's
quickly, Steve. I've just noticed, and Byron pointed out, actually, that's down to minus 107 now that Liverpool win and both teams to score yes. So I wouldn't be betting it there. Hopefully, we'll see some money somehow come for PSV here, and we'll get a better price on that. But yeah, want to wait till kickoff to see if the odds improve there.
Pro Soccer Bets Club says he used to try and bet everything close to evens. The man who worked with Star Lizard. So he says if you like a team at 1.7, say at minus 140, then try and back the Asian handicap closer to the evens mark. Do you agree with that, Will? Do you try and bet your main lines closer to evens, or there's nothing wrong with a minus 130, minus 140 shot? How do you see that?
It's really dependent on the game, to be honest. As a general rule, you're taking them on the Asian line closer to even money. Well, you're going to have to take a cut in the handicap, right? So if you're backing the money line at minus 140, if you're looking for a plus 100 proposition, you're going to be taking them at least minus 3/4. So if they win by 1 goal, you're only going to receive half the winnings. So, everything has its kind of yin and its yang. And for me, if I'm expecting a big blowout win, then maybe I'll go on the Asian closer to even money. But there's value in it in any line, right? There can be value in a minus 140 shot. There can be value in a minus 400 shot. There can be value in a plus 100 shot. There can be value in a plus 400 shot. But you're never looking at the same proposition if you're looking at the minus 3/4 versus the outright straight win, because of that half win if they win by 1 goal.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Absolutely no doubt about it. As you'd expect, lots of money on Liverpool. 98% of the money, 96% of the tickets. Just 77% of the money on the over in the over-under market. Sometimes those higher goal lines do put people off. It seems like most people are trusting Liverpool here. I think that the weakness of the Dutch league has put people off them. Get Will a jacket. Yeah, he does need one, actually. He needs his own, sort of Champions League jacket.
Not sure I look so good in the mustard as you do, Steve.
Well, I'm not saying it would have to be mustard. I'm like a personalised jacket. What colour should Will's jacket be, guys? Maybe.
Surely it should be navy blue, like the European Ryder Cup team. But yeah, I'm happy to leave it to the chat to decide on the colour of my jacket.
Yeah, we'll have to get a poll going, won't we? What colour should Will's jacket be for the Champions League? We've got one more match to discuss. It's in Athens, Olympiakos against Real Madrid. And I think Real Madrid actually look quite a big price here. Minus 180 now. Minus 167. That is an accurate graphic. They've been opposed here, Real Madrid, Will, as the day's gone on. Olympiakos shorter than 4-1. Why is that, do you think? And am I just being a bit unrealistic to say that a simple minus 167 bet on Real Madrid is worth a go? There has been unrest potentially in the camp of late. Xabi Alonso upsetting the players to a degree, but they're much better than Olympiakos, surely.
This reminds me of a couple of seasons back when Union Berlin played Real Madrid at home. And Union Berlin went from plus 1.25 which was the opening line here, all the way to +3/4. So a half a goal move. This seems to be the biggest line move of the night as well. And I think the reasons are, one, the syndicates really like opposing Real Madrid in Europe. For whatever reason, they get opposed most weeks. And two, probably more importantly, Real Madrid only have one fit centre-back here, and it's 3rd/4th choice Asensio. So it's going to be Asensio and maybe Tchouaméni starting in central defence. And actually, I had a whole write-up around Jude Bellingham here for this game. And Marca are now saying that he's going to be starting from the bench. So I'll probably have to forgo that part of my write-up. But at the end of the day, there's probably a bit of a downer on La Liga teams as well, given Barca were dominated by Chelsea last night. So I think a combination of those three things are giving us what I agree is a very generous price on Real Madrid. The question is, will it keep going? On the flip side, Barcelona did crush this Olympiakos side 6-1, Matchday 3. That was in Barcelona, and Olympiakos are much, much stronger at home. But if this line continues to drift and we get the 3/4 line like we did against Union Berlin a couple of years back, around about -110, that will be enough to get me involved. Regarding player props, yeah, I've got the write-up around Bellingham. That's now no longer relevant. But maybe Vinicius is the guy to look out for here. He was rested on the weekend. Probably means he's going to start here. And we know he's got a few points to prove, a bit of a chip on his shoulder. I can see him performing tonight. So anything around Vinicius, if you can get, I don't know what his prices are off the top of my head, but maybe +110 to score or assist, -180-ish shot on target, something like that. Something around Vinicius, probably quite tempting as well.
Yeah, there's a few people in chat issuing caution on Real Madrid. Lorenzo says, as a Madrid fan, stay away from the money line. They've never beaten Olympiakos in Athens, I presume, and the team is dysfunctional. I mean, that dysfunctional, Byron's, by the way, like in under 3 on the Asian goals. Madrid -1.5 for Kenny. Dan Roebuck says he's got the RBC Heritage Winners jacket. Off the top of my head, I think that's a crazy looking one. I can't remember. It's like red and striped or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, interesting call, Dan. I mean, look, dysfunctional Real Madrid. There has been, Xabi Alonso wanting these players to work harder. It seems the work ethic in Madrid isn't very high. They don't want this. They're more about a turn up and as long as we get a result on the day sort of bunch, aren't they? I'm not sure this is a marriage that's potentially going to last in time. It seems ridiculous, doesn't it? That a manager's just asking for a bit more and the players just want more days off. But the players do rule it in Madrid. I've always found that. They just do. And they play when they want. Will they want to play and turn up tonight? That's the question. I'm not sure, Will. Hopefully, if we're going to back them, they are.
I mean, these concerns that are being mentioned in the chat and in the press, they're more than factored into the line now. There's been a lot of money for Olympiakos. It's almost moved half a goal. And I like to take the opposite side of these type of narratives. So we'll see, I guess. And I'm prepared for Madrid not to show up tonight. I mean, I think they're capable of not showing up and still winning the game. But if they do show up, then I wouldn't be sitting comfortably as an Olympiakos backer.
No. Me neither, because I think there's night and day between the teams, ultimately. Yeah. And 99% of the money's on Real Madrid, 98% of the tickets. No surprise there. They're usually the most backed team in the whole Champions League slate at all. 93% of the money's on the over in the game as well. Was a house special here. Kylian Mbappe to score a goal and over 3.5 goals in the match. That is at +170. So if you like the idea of a lot of goals here, and Mbappe to net, then that is the house special for you. Coach Sanko, welcome in. Always good to see you. Liverpool, PSV, both teams score. Yes, he agrees with you, Will. Although Will is going with the Liverpool to win on top of that. We'll remind people of the Daily Double now before I'll also ask about some other bets across the board. That is the Daily Double. PSG to beat Spurs and Arsenal, Bayern Munich, both teams score. Yes, at +121. For me, it's a tricky day. I really do like that +1 Asian handicap on Club Bruges. That would be my personal best bet of the day. And I think of the early kickoffs, Pafos +1 as well, really, if I'm being honest. Any others aside from that double that you'd stand out again, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Club Brugge as well. The Pafos, the team news is out now, and Monaco are full strength. They've got Kamara and Zakaria both starting, Akliouche, Balogun's back, Ansu Fati. So I'm a bit less hot on that. Was hoping for a bit of weak team news for Monaco there. So probably my best bet, apart from the daily double, is Club Brugge plus a goal.
Looks a great value bet, I must say. Notable Wednesday live streams on the BetRivers app and website. 5 games in the Championship. We've got a midweek Championship round, of course. Brazil Serie A, Bragantino, the Red Bull team there against Fortaleza. Swiss Super League, Lugano against St. Gallen, and Leeds Syrian playoff, Arlesund, Eggersund as well. Still plenty to come on this channel today. Betting Weekly Live US. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern time now. It's an hour earlier. They've changed it over. There won't be a Thanksgiving show tomorrow, I don't believe, on the Betting Weekly US. And then a new show later on. Me and Will are going to be back. We're going to be here for the breakdown. That's going to be at 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. That is at 10:15 here in the UK, where we're going to go through this Champions League midweek slate. Look at what went right and what went wrong for us, where the money came and goes. What it's going to be interesting what some of these teams do kick off at, Will, in terms of odds. It'd be really good to look back at that. So looking forward to that one later. Apart from that, Will, thanks again as always. Great doing business with you on the Champions League show.
Yeah, Steve, and I'm already looking forward to joining you in roughly 5 hours' time for that live review show where we'll go through the whole card from tonight and retrospectively from last night as well. We'll unearth our strong spots and our weak spots, and maybe take a look ahead to the subsequent card where really we're going to be getting toward the business end of the group stage. Yeah, and tomorrow, of course, you've got James Easton's going to be on with me, breaking down the Europa League and Conference League card, and you better join us. And I know there's a big Thanksgiving NFL card as well, so everyone's going to have to put their best bets in chat for that one too. Remember to sign up for the Betting Weekly newsletter. Check out Doug and Mike, like I said, at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks so much again behind the background there for the graphics this week, John Izzard and producer Troy as well. But until later for the breakdown, it's goodbye from me and Will. Take care, and let's smash and win us tonight in the Champions League. Goodbye.